Hey, what is up guys? My name is Oleg, this is Bond, coming to you from snowy Canada. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to do a review of a watch from a company called Ballast. Admittedly, this is not the type of watch that I would usually be reviewing on the channel. It's a skeletonized design, which I'm not really into. The color choice is not really my cup of tea, and the overall design, I don't know, doesn't appeal to me. However, design is very subjective, so maybe some of you guys would like this design more than me. However, this watch has one interesting feature that I've never seen in any other watch before. So that's why I wanted to share it with you guys. Let's get started. Ballast Trafalgar. Let's start the review by looking at the case dimensions. We have a case diameter of 46.5 millimeters, a lug-to-lug width of 54 millimeters, a lug width of 22 millimeters, and a thickness of 14.5 millimeters. Here's what the watch looks like on my 7¼ inch wrist. I think it looks a little bit too large, at least too large for my preferences. 46 millimeters is not a watch that I would typically wear. On top of the size that I would typically not wear, the watch has a design that I am just not really attracted to. And we'll talk about a design in a few minutes or so. We'll talk about the movement, and that's one special feature that I really wanted to showcase to you guys. But first, let's talk about the case and the case finishes. So it is an all stainless steel case. It's not a PVD coating. From my understanding, that's iron plating on the case. It's done pretty well. I mean, nothing spectacular, but not too bad. Even has a bit of a chamfering here on the lugs. The watch has a screw down case back with a display window, giving this one 100 meters of water resistance, which is enough for most people. But the aesthetic of this watch, even on a buckle here, we can see the submarine, kind of a cool feature. I like that. But anyways, kind of the aesthetic of this watch, and I think the design behind this watch is more of a diver style watch. So I do wish it was 200 meters of water resistance. In my opinion, 200 meters is kind of a true mark of a diver watch. 100, you can still swim with it, but you can't really dive with 100 meters. So maybe it's something to look into, improving that water resistance. The display case back here with the custom rotor, I actually quite like the way they did the rotor. It has two different tones. So it has that Ballast logo kind of in a silver stainless steel color, and then the rest of the rotor is in the iron plating. Kind of a cool design. Also, the whole movement is golden, which is again a very interesting design choice. Speaking of interesting design choices, let's talk about this dial and the color combination. The watch comes in a few different color combinations. The one that they sent me, not really my cup of tea, if I'm being honest with you, but design is subjective. Maybe some of you guys like it. Not really the kind of design color combination that I would go for usually. But again, it's kind of fun to challenge yourself, I guess. The inner portion of this dial, I think, is supposed to mimic a window of a submarine. You can see this kind of screws around here. So the dial is layered, or at least it looks like it's layered. And then it has the little bolts sticking out. And then even the display window, there is this orange glass. And it has a bit of a dome to it. I'm not sure if it's showing up on camera, but in person you can see that there is a bit of a dome on that inner glass. So interesting design, I guess kind of cool. I'm not really into skeletonized watches, so doesn't do much for me personally. But again, if you're into skeletonized watches, I guess this is a cool way to display that movement. There's a bit of loom on this dial. As you can see, there are a few loom pips here, and the hands are loomed, but the loom pips are alternated with these screws. Again, kind of a puzzling design choice because it's not very functional, especially in the dark, because you can't really tell which way is up and which way is down. So the loom is fairly useless. Nevertheless, let me pop a loom shot on the screen right now. The movement powering this watch is a Miyota 8 series movement, but it has been modified. And that brings us to this special feature of this watch, something that I've never seen and something that has been patented by the company. So what am I talking about? Well, there is this little latch here, and usually you would think that this is the crown, but it's not. So the way it works, is you unscrew this portion here, and what you are greeted with is this little button. So when you push the button, like so, this portion pops up, and that's how you know that now you can operate the movement. Now the movement has 21 joules. It is not hackable, but it is hand windable, 8 series Miyota movement. This one's running within 14 seconds per day. But once you press the button, this portion here pops up. The bezel is actually what controls the movement, is how you set the time, which is something that I've never seen before. Very, very interesting. Once you're done setting the time, you push this little platform here, you push it in, the time is set, and you screw this latch back into place. And that's it. That's how you control and set the time of this watch. Also, when the latch is pushed in like this, you can wind the movement with the bezel. There is enough grip and it's comfortable enough to do this. Again, a very, very interesting function, and I'm sure it wasn't cheap and it wasn't easy to develop this and to modify it into this movement. Which brings me to my next point. I don't know what is the advantage of this way of operating the watch and operating the movement. I guess it is cool, it is different, but it doesn't add any benefits to the actual watch operation. I mean, it is smooth, it is easy to do, and I'm glad that there are companies that are still doing innovative things, that are still pushing the boundaries, so to speak. So props to them for doing this, but I'm not sure how useful it is. And that brings me to the big negative of this watch, the price. So the watch is priced at $520 US. You do have sapphire crystal, which helps, but for a Miyota 8 series movement, that's steep. I think they're facing quite a bit of competition in this price point. That modification, the patent for this movement, couldn't be cheap, so I'm sure that's some of the cost, and that's why the cost is a little bit higher, but I think they're still a little bit too high in terms of the pricing. From the negative, that's the price of this watch. Let's talk about the positive. The positive is this leather strap. So the watch comes on this pretty thick, comfortable, I'd say, leather strap with nice stitching. Even has this tough tank buckle with a submarine. A couple of other negatives that I noticed. One, I already mentioned, the loom, not very useful, doesn't last very long. And number two, this latch here, although it looks tough and it looks kind of cool, I guess, but it's not very comfortable, at least on my size of a wrist. So I have 7¼ inch wrist, and it digs into the wrist when I wear it or when I bend my wrist. And just the overall size of the watch, 46 millimeters. It's a bit too big for my preferences, and I know for a lot of you guys, you also don't like big watches like that. And I guess last negative, which kind of relates to the overall size of the watch, is you can see how big the movement is. So the movement is not actually much larger than what we can see here. So there's quite a bit of empty space around it, and I don't like when watches have a lot of empty space in them. Just make the watch smaller or put in a larger movement. All right, guys, so that was the full review of this watch right here from a company called Ballast. Interesting feature, interesting movement feature. I've never seen it before. I guess the benefit of this feature over a traditional crown is that you can wind the movement without having to unscrew the crown. Maybe some other benefits, I don't know. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think are the advantages or disadvantages of this way of operating the movement and winding the watch as opposed to a regular. As far as the price goes, I think that's the biggest negative for this watch with the Miyota 8 series movement. $520 is high, and I think they're gonna face quite a bit of competition in that price point from a lot of other micro brands as well as some more established brands. Also, I wanted to mention to you that the watch was provided by Ballast for this review, and I don't have to return the watch. Of course, that didn't affect the review in any way. Just want to be transparent with you. I appreciate you watching this video until the end. By the way, today on my wrist, I'm wearing my vintage Seiko 5. When I did State of the Collection for Seiko watches, This was one of the favorites for a lot of you guys, and it's one of my favorite Seikos in my collection for sure. I still haven't done a review of this watch, but I will do it soon, I promise. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun. There is a secret link in the description below. Check it out if you're curious, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
What? Do you like the snow? What, do you like the snow? What's this? What's this? You silly. Oh, what's this?